Hi Satyarth, how are you doing today?
Very good, Simran. It's fantastic to see you again.
Same here, same here. So how's it going? How's Are you done with your evening chai? I saw the last time we were talking, I saw that you have like this liking for evening chais. Are you done with it? How's it
I,
going?
I did. I
Hmm.
make those pots of Darjeeling tea. So I've gone
Oh,
through two of them,
okay.
and there'll be one more before I
Before bed.
get back. Yeah, correct. So it's sort of addictive, but that's what I do. I try and drink one pot in the morning and one after a meal if I can. So
Oh wow. Okay. So it's not like it's of course it's Darjeeling tea, so like you brew it yourself, is it? How do
correct.
you? Wow.
When we meet, I'll brew some for you. In fact, I'll take some with myself for you.
Ah,
I'll carry some for you.
yes, yes. When are you traveling here, by the way?
So, in fact, I'm in Delhi on Sunday.
Oh, lovely. Lovely that you are here. Not that it's a lovely time to be in Delhi.
I know, I know. There's a lot at Jim Corbett.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think you mentioned it last time.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's a
So
safari
it's
situation.
it's it's a team bonding, uh, off tripping. I mean, off sighting kind of an arrangement where
Oh,
the entire gang of AEEE, the climate think tank, gets
oh.
to go once a year.
Okay, 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 okay. And there's going to be safari. Is there going to be safari?
There is. I've been reliably told there is.
Yeah, because it's really like a thing right now. Everybody around me also is going to watch the big cats everywhere, wherever there is safari.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. Wow.
yeah. So
Fantastic.
why don't you like you start? You take the stage. You start by telling a little bit about yourself. What is it that why are we here? Anything, and how is today treating you? Of course.
Great. So, how do I introduce you as someone from the literary desk at times now? Is that okay? And also a creative freelancer. Is that
Yeah, yeah. That sounds lovely. Yeah,
something on those lines?
yeah.
Okay. So we start now. Three, two, one. Hi everyone. This is Satyartha Mishra. I'm the author of a book called The Hapless Voyager. I'm joined by Simran Sukhnani. Simran is one of the salient minds at times now. She runs the literary desk and does a lot of uh, literary reviews. And Simran's also a creative soul, which means her work extends well beyond what she does officially at times now. So the objective today, or we have a very loose agenda of discussing our lives, the book Hapless Voyager, and on to you now, Simran. You can introduce yourself, and we can get on with it. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you so much. That was also a lovely, lovely introduction. I don't think I could have done that for myself at all. Most times when I'm taking a meeting like this or like any discussion for that matter, I absolutely forget to even introduce myself for that matter. Yeah. So thank you so much. I have like a couple of things that I would wanna discuss today, or just I think when I was thinking about this, there were just a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, and I think the last couple of conversations that we have had, you have also been so kind to give me that space where I can, you know,
Absolute pleasure, Simran.
yeah. And also like I have a lot of friends with whom I talk a lot for hours, and there's always these conversations that I really appreciate where um, it's a way where I'm finding myself in the conversation, and you were too kind to allow me that space. So thank you so much. And there are a couple of things. Let's start with I think the book first of all, because I think I read it the first time around right after the launch, and then very recently I was reading it again because there are a couple of things that I just felt like I would want to read again. Okay, and like when I was reading the book the second time, I honestly felt like your book is something that I can go back to and read when I would want to look for kindness in the world.
This is such a huge, it means so much to me, Simran. A mentor of mine who's I've always learned from, his name is Ted Pretty.
Okay.
He texted me uh, and said, I just revisited a certain section of the book, uh, and he said, this is what family is, and you described it very beautifully. I could not place or contextualize what he was referring to, but this actually makes my day, Simran. Thank you.
Oh no! It made my day when I was really, because I think the kind of world we live in right now, it can be a little difficult to remind yourself that there is beauty and there is kindness, and no matter how much of a, as they put it, rat race or building an empire you would be in, like individually, you're still a part of a society, and you never know um, uh, where and how kindness can find its way to you. And that is something your book sort of makes me believe in. So that is one thing I wanted to say. And I think you've not I think you've actually mentioned so much about traveling, right? Just traveling around the world. You have taken every opportunity that came along, like your way, and you really just snatched it. You if I am digressing a little bit here, but there is something called the yes theory. I don't know if you.
I'm intrigued. I would love to know more about
It's
it.
just very simple. It's just a theory that people around the world follow, and it's just to say yes to everything that comes along your way. I think that is something that would be very interesting for you. Just like so that is one thing that I thought about when I was reading your book. That no matter came what from where, you would, the only thing that you would say is yes. Yes, I am ready. Yes, I am available. Yes, I would want to travel. Yes, I would want to experience life in general, right? So how
Makes me reflect, Simran. It's profound. I mean, not my personality, but what you say is profound and makes me reflect. It is true. I say yes because I don't know any better
okay.
in most instances, and I like to think that I don't know any better.
Okay. Okay.
So it's just something that comes naturally to me. Sorry, and what was your question?
No, yeah. So I just like, how has it been? Like you, I'm pretty sure that traveling around the world would have helped you with a lot of experiences, and then putting it down in a book that is almost just 100 pages. How did you manage that? Because on days that I sit down to even write my journal, I am just going on writing pages after pages about a singular day when everything was just as mundane as it can be. So how would you describe 1,000 journeys in, say, just 100 words? How did that come along?
First of all, Simran, I read your piece in Times Now, and I was blown away by how succinct a literary piece or an analysis could be.
Oh wow.
So when you say you write pages and pages in your journal, it's a gift, and it's a gift, and I think everyone should have a crack at it. I'm not trying to sermonize, but I just think it's a gift, and it also tells me how you were able to analyze all these books, all these memoirs, and come up with your own insight in terms of what each one of them, each of the authors offered. So first of all, please take it as a compliment. I hope and wish many young people adopt journaling like the way you do.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, and it has to be noted. It has to be cascaded, because when we write, we let a piece of ourselves out, especially if we choose to share or to introspect. And these sound very technical terms, but the fact is, we are better off when we share. We are better off when someone else shares a slice of their life. So to me, I mentioned this somewhere. Whenever I felt moved by
Hmm.
an individual or life itself, or a combination of circumstances,
Hmm.
people, um, the venue, uh, I have come back thinking, reminiscing. I've come back with some musings, and
Hmm.
I found it impossible to hold onto my thoughts,
Oh.
and it has been very odd. So I've come back at very odd hours and written. I've
Okay.
just felt a very strong urge to unleash words.
Hmm.
Whether it's the chapter on Tanku that you've read, you
Hmm.
know, how it came about was I was at the airport
Hmm.
and I got this text on the uh, batchmates group that Tanku had died. And there was a photo of him which you'll see in the book
Hmm.
here.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It was a short flight. I remember it was Sydney, Melbourne. It's no more than an hour.
Okay.
So by the time you board and everyone settles down, you're really sort of descending.
Hmm.
But I could not resist taking out my phone and punching
Hmm.
these points.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
was the first version of the chapter, Tanku.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then subsequently, when I wrote down and doubled down on writing the book and getting it edited by my editor, Mriga,
Hmm.
I then added context to it.
Hmm.
So I was never in a dilemma that I was adding too much detail, or I was being frugal in terms of my sentimentality, if that makes sense. Uh,
Okay.
I just wrote about what moved me in that phase of life, in that specific incident, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So you would say that your writing was when when did it start exactly? When would you say you started writing the book?
So I was surrounded by books. My parents were, I mean, everything we siblings are because of our parents.
Hmm.
They were both readers, and I don't know. This is one element of my being which doesn't go well with the rest of my mediocrity, which is I started reading at the age of 4, and that is because my mother and father used to read to me,
Hmm.
and they used to show me the letters. This was all in Hindi, by the way, Simran.
Yeah.
And then there was a story in a magazine called Champak, where the dacoits, the Dakus visited someone and how he wriggled out and saved his family. There came a time when I used to listen to that story every night before I went to bed.
Wow.
For my mother tells me that they were bored of reading it out to me, but they would read it out to me. They couldn't escape, obviously.
But do you remember that as a kid you wanted to read the same story or
Yeah,
the same story? Okay.
you hit the nail on the head, children. I had a deep urge then because I was getting introduced to Kakha Gagha and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
I had this very fierce urge to read it. I was already, I used to go through the pictures. It was, um, Champak had pictures, graphics,
Okay.
beautifully
It
done.
was a comic, no? Yeah.
It was not a comic, but it had pictures to substantiate the prose.
Okay. Imagination just to like sort of feed into your.
Just one or two pictures
Hmm.
which would make the story uh, jump at you as well.
Okay.
Illustrations, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one day I read the story
At the age of 4.
at the age of, I was slightly under 4.
Okay. Wow.
I was slightly, and I read it to my mother.
Wow.
So it's all credit to them because they actually kept up with me and yielded to my request every night. But one day I just read that particular story, and then subsequently they started giving me more books, more editions of the magazine, and I started to read up. Uh, and I became a voracious reader then. I wish I was, I am, I wish I adopt that habit again because I end up reading a lot less these days.
Hmm.
And then I became a voracious reader. I would read on the train, I would read if we went out shopping, and people would, I still remember, I felt very flattered when at the railway station, I would read a magazine and then get another one, and people would stop and look at it. I was also diminutive and slight, you know. So I appeared younger than I was, I think, as well. And there was no looking back. So my parents kept bringing me books.
Wow.
And my mother kept count. She told me I counted up to 1,000 books when I was 10 years of age.
My God.
She had to buy a cupboard, so that's why she remembers this.
Wow.
So this is how it came about. I think if I were to look back and reflect, it is because of the reading that my parents did to me. You know, they allowed for time, and we were a big family. I'm the oldest of five, but that foundation is what I attribute my writing to, my reading to. And if I pick up an exceptional figure of speech or a beautiful piece of writing, it just becomes a part of me. I would want to read it again. So, yeah, that's a bit of unnecessary trivia for you.
My question was, when did you start writing?
So reading led me to write. Thank you. Because when we're having a conversation like this, you forage into, as I may have said,
You know, I love that.
the inner recesses of yourself. And
Yes.
so thank you for bringing that out. And I'll try not to
No,
labor.
no, please do that.
So I started to write for the school. So my mother used to sit down, and she would sit down with me and see me write. She would make me practice copiously. I would go through multiple exercise books or practice copies, if you like, and she would then want me to write the fair version if there was.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah,
so
rough and fair.
rough and fair. So she would say, "इसमें लिख के दिखाओ, इसको फिर से लिखो." So it's her. It's her. She writes. She still writes. If she has to send a message to us, and she feels very strongly about something, she picks up a pen, writes it on a piece of paper, takes a photo, and inflicts it on us. So she still does that, and we treasure that. You know, the tyranny of distance doesn't appear to be that tyrannical, because you can communicate instantly. There's no dakia and the post office system.
Yeah, yeah.
So that and reading. So write and then read. And then we started essays at school. And I broke out of my mold. You know, I was a wanderer in that sense, Simran.
Voyager?
Not back then, but I would say I would wonder and think and imagine, and I did stop myself because of the formative reading. You know, I could let my mind wander, and I could write. There was an essay that I showed off to my friends in the school bus. I think I was in year 7. So all my friends in the school bus, I wrote a word called cacophony.
Oh.
Right. And I got marked 8 out of 10, and I had all my friends, and I showed off.
Yeah, of course.
I showed off. Because when you have little else to report by way of brilliance, you make every opportunity count. so I remember I showed it to everyone, and one of them said, his name is Bhanu. He's a doctor now. I don't know how he got there, but he said, "इसका मतलब क्या होता है?" So I said to him that. I explained to him that this is what cacophony or cacophony means. So I took a lot of, I think, a lot of heart from the fact that I could write unconventionally, and I could just simply pour a thought into a piece of paper. So that's what led me on, and there would be times when I was never a writer for the school magazine, but there was an instance where I went from Delhi to Bombay and I had nowhere to go. And I was ushered into this waiting room where the carer, he could have, there was no room, but he made room for me.
Wow.
gave me tea, and I could spend the night. I was going for my summer training, and they were shut.
Hmm.
So that morning, I got up early and I wrote "The City with Her Soul" for Bombay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if anything moved me, I would feel the urgency to write about it.
Hmm.
And then I completed that essay and published it in my MBA school magazine.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
So bit by bit, I would always write. I would always be very observant when I read. So
Hmm.
if I liked a phrase, and if something was articulated beautifully,
Hmm.
I would read it again and again. I still do that.
Okay. Is there something you have read recently?
Oscar Wilde. I'm hooked on to the picture of Dorian Gray.
Wow. Wow.
I've read it 2 or 3 times.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's so conversational.
Hmm.
But, you know, Oscar Wilde's style of writing. In fact, I'm in Bangalore and I went to Blossoms.
Hmm.
I bought 2 more paperbacks because he's only written one novel and then the others are plays.
Hmm.
I am so enamored by Oscar Wilde that I keep reading. I savor those pages as if, you served a beautiful, delicious dish and you want to savor it. That's
Yeah.
how I go through Oscar Wilde these days. And yeah, there are others, obviously.
Hmm.
I've read The Suitable Boy for its velocity
Hmm.
uh, and the assimilation of characters at great pace.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Amitabh Ghosh, I believe he went to my school. So I do read a lot, but I also see a lot of youngsters breaking through like yourself, like the piece you wrote. I felt very, very honored because not just because I was there, but the list is so illustrious, and your analysis, it actually paints the picture for each one of the books that you review.
Hmm.
I also, Simran, no, absolutely draw inspiration from writers like you, who may not have published, but you will at some point. Number one,
Wow.
and some expressions
Hmm.
are as valuable as Oscar Wilde's.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm saying this to you, but also some other online bloggers.
Hmm.
Some expressions
Hmm.
are so lyrical.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That's what I felt. You were lyrical, you were objective, and you could bring out the soul of these books. So there's a lot of good stuff available uh, online, which people say leads to instant gratification, which is true. But you cannot overlook the quality of writing in the short form either.
Hmm. That is right. I think that is also the reason why Substack is becoming very famous right now. People have gotten to writing again, to reading again, because they are now trying to break out of the mold of doom scrolling and instant gratification, or just the endorphin release, that quick endorphin release that doom scrolling gives you. And they are actually making reading cool again, which was not cool for a long period of time. And now people my age are getting to reading classics like The Picture of Dorian Gray and other classics. Even very recently, I think Frankenstein, which is a novel by Mary Shelley, there's a new movie that came out, a new adaptation, and now everyone is going back and reading the book that was written in the 1800s. So I just love how there's like this whole revolution of people coming back to reading.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other day, a brother of mine, very dear to me, Amit, he took his daughter to a fair
Hmm.
and they had just only graphic novels, for instance.
Wow.
Amit is a voracious reader. He is a dear, dear brother.
Hmm.
And he reads a lot. But he is now exposing this genre and to his daughter, who's got an exceptional vocabulary.
Wow.
And I realized that, look, what has been written
Hmm.
may be time boxed and constrained
Hmm.
within a context, but its appeal can be limitless. And that's why I was very selfish and intentional, Simran, about letting my work do the talking and getting it out there. It didn't matter if anyone liked it or not.
Hmm.
It didn't matter if, for instance, some of the descriptions or the parallels I draw were incoherent. It just didn't matter. I was just keen that I write and my work's out there. So if someone feels there is some merit in it or some expression appeals to someone, it can be shared around. And I think that's what humanity has to do more of,
Hmm.
uh, leaning in on what you think can be materially useful,
Hmm. Hmm.
just sharing it. There's a law in this era of consumerism. Create, and not because uh, you want to be known, but create and share.
Yeah, because I think as humans, we were supposed to create more and consume less. And now all we do is consume. And when it comes to creation, that is one thing I have noticed about myself also. Like you just said that, you wanted to get your work out there. You did not pay much heed to how it would be perceived. You just wanted to share this piece. And then however people take it, of course, they have their own perspectives. And that is one thing I think I have always struggled with, that you consume so much and then you get into a rut of, okay, is this going to be good, are people going to like it? So how do you actually break out of a judgment that may come in later?
And coming from you, it's a great question, Simran, because you do write brilliantly. See, I have learned along the journey, because back in April, I had these sporadic musings on my laptop. I had opened up a draft where I would, just inflict thoughts, bereft of any shape or form, so to speak. What I realized was, uh, why do you write? You write because you feel very strongly about something.
Right.
So then you want it to get fructified on a piece of paper, because you feel very strongly about something. So it's critical that in my case, it was very critical that I write about what I feel strongly about. I met some of my friends, said, hey, by the way, it's a very feminist world, so throw in some elements. I said, look, I am not that person. First of all, I'm not a thought leader. I believe in egalitarianism. I believe in equality. But, that phenomenon cannot drive my writing. I am who I am. And I want to share a piece of me. And if in my work, for instance, the chapter Kali Topi Lal Rumal, you read about my cousin who empowered thousands of women, tribal women, right? They had no recourse. He now can be termed feminist, but he was just egalitarian in his thought. It never struck him that men and women have to be treated differently, and he saw women's plight. Like they had the Dayan Pratha where the men folk would actually do a tattoo, on a widow's forehead and slowly ostracize her and appropriate her land. So he used to tell me all of this very casually, because he was in the belt, he was with the tribals, he saw there's very systemic exploitation, Simran. So a lot of people said, oh wow, that's feminist. I said, he wouldn't have thought about the term.
Yeah.
He wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to go away and label it because it's vogue. First of all, we should all be feminists. We should all be just equal, in terms of weighing up things. Why should you be disparaging to a sex or a certain subclass or a section for that matter? So I steered clear, Simran, of pandering to a narrative. I was very clear that the voice has to be mine, and I am happy to be judged. I did avoid controversy, but I could have been a lot more controversial. But I just thought to myself, I will tell it the way I saw it. Otherwise, I would never be happy with what I have published.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that is what matters the most, that you should be happy with what you have written and what you have put out in the world. And then, of course, if you say you like oranges, there are going to be people who would say, no, but I like apples. What about that?
So, Simran, just to finish off on that question of yours, you're keeping me honest, because I can meander. It's about not writing for an audience.
Hmm.
It's about writing for yourself, and that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. This reminds me of something I was reading very recently. There is this writer called Clarice Lispector, and she had written. It was just the first page. This is the first time I'm reading her, and just the first page. She says, "Till the time there are questions that I don't have answers for, I need to keep writing, and so I write."
Wow, that that absolutely blows me out of the water. And yeah, if I have intrigue, I will write.
Yeah.
If I have an experience that I've gone through, and I look back and say, "Oh wow, this can also happen," because we are very busy applying or being formulaic, Simran, like we spoke the other day about everything. But life, the best laid plans of mice and men always go awry, and there's every evidence to substantiate this.
Hmm.
So we have to write, and I feel great that the book is out there, the Hapless Voyager is out there, in the shape and form that I wanted to relate. I didn't want to labor it. I write naturally, and one thing I realized was I could write best the first thing in the morning.
Oh, who is that? There is also a writer who does that. Is it Stephen King? I think so.
A couple of writers have,
Yeah.
and I came across them later, as in their styles.
Oh.
Stylistically, they were, some of them liked a tipple, a half a bottle of a certain beverage, and then write. I tried that, but in the morning I regretted both the tipple and the writing. So I realized that your best form
Hmm.
is जब आपका जो जहन होता है, it's not picked up or grown in maturity of the day. It's still a bit of a blank canvas where thoughts can really flow without being considered.
Hmm. Hmm. So when then someone tells you that how did you write it, or say suppose you are to write, say, fiction for that matter, you can very clearly tell them that it came to you in a dream. Can you?
I would I would suffer writing fiction.
Why would you say that? Why?
I know my limitations. I think I'm too stuck up, Simran. Too stuck up, still being an understudy of the reality and the vagaries of life.
Hmm.
That itself, that realm is boundless in its own right. And I don't read fiction also.
Okay. So, like, do you now not read fiction, or has it always been like that? Have you always?
Always, throughout. It's an incident, it's an individual, it's a conversation that has always had an imprint.
Okay, so you would say that you value experience more than imagination? Is that it?
So you imagine, I would imagine, and also it's got to do with your faculty. Some of us are slightly underdeveloped in that sense, who don't make the most out of what's being offered. So to me, I could be vicarious, but not imaginative, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I could think that I'm going to this country, I'm surrounded by people in this beautiful village, and I'm doing something for them. That excites me. Right? Or I'm in a certain situation where someone's trying to harm a child, or it could be a woman or a man. I would vicariously be a hero in that situation. I do that a lot.
Okay.
Extraordinary things in face of a daunting situation, or I allow myself that liberty at all times.
Okay.
But I am not able to be imaginative many a times, if there's a difference. And this is the first time, again, you're making me explore how the mind works. But this is the truth of it, Simran.
Okay. So you wouldn't want to write fiction? Is that it?
I wouldn't want to write fiction, I can write about someone, I can write about people, but I'm incapable of writing fiction.
Okay. Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
This, I think, a couple of conversations that we were just having just reminds me. Those conversations remind me of this one time that I was in 8th grade, and I was appearing for an extempore, and this was my first time. And I come from a second-tier city, and my English wasn't, of course, that great because it was never my first language. And I had done a lot of reading the day before, and like, of course, the week that led up to it. And whatever I liked, whatever phrases I liked, whatever words I liked, I made sure that, I would make a note of them, and I would try and keep them in my mind. I would revise them again and again, just like how you added this word in your text. And I thought I would write it, and then I would be the cool person, just because I've used this one word. And when it actually came to me appearing for the um, for the extempore competition, I made sure that okay, these are these words that I have to write because I have to sound cool. But the thing is that I couldn't stop writing, and so when I went up to the stage, I couldn't stop reading whatever I had written. Just what I mentioned, that I couldn't stop journaling. So uh, when or how do you know that you okay, this is it, this is what the chapter consists of, and this is where I have to end the story? Because the experience, of course, I'm pretty sure that the experience would have been so multidimensional, I think, for the lack of a better word, or like it would have made you feel so much. Like, for example, Leo Tolstoy, all of us know that he writes 23 pages explaining a door. So when do you know that okay, this is I have noted down, or I have put down whatever I wanted to in this experience, and now it's time to move on to something else?
This is a great conversation, Simran, because it's making me think about what I typically did or what I do when I write. There's one thing that moves me, you know, the way you picked up those words, which you were absolutely fascinated with.
Yeah.
I do that for Urdu, I do that for English. I think words are characters in my life. So if I hear you, I'm absolutely fascinated by what you say. Words move me. So obviously, you read up and you know certain words, and there are many that you do not. But I get intentional about a word that sounds just apt, but you don't know the exact connotation of, and I go deep into it, and and I don't write them down, but I make sure I get to know the word in terms of its what is the connotation, what's the soul of the word, and dabbling in multiple languages, I think gives you that broader framework जिस पे आपका मस्तिष्क काम कर सकता है rather than a constricted, because the language is also, it also denotes a certain culture, certain people, and it's not eminently translatable, right? Any language for that matter. So that's why it's rich, any language. So these words speak to me, and then 10 years later, I would look at a situation and I would say, use for instance gregarious or egregious, they fascinate me, they move me. And they also make me write. So if I like a certain word, I would write. I would love to intentionally, like you said, this resonates, Simran, what you said. I would like to use that word. And I'll find an excuse to use that word.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like making a costume for the word, styling it in a sense.
Styling it, contextualizing it.
Yeah.
चाहे वो थोड़ी उसमें जोर जबरदस्ती ही करनी पड़े. You're spot on.
Yeah. 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 So my question being, when do you know that okay, this chapter I have captured the soul of the experience in this particular piece, and I would like to keep it.
So I could have answered it in this one sentence, which is the moment your thoughts stop flowing. That's the end of the chapter. So you make do with what you've got.
Okay.
And then you could go back, revisit the chapter,
Hmm.
But the moment you realize you have nothing more to say,
Hmm.
then I would just stop writing and say that is it. I would never, someone said to me, brevity is the soul of wit, which it stayed with me. People were using it on their phones to show off that, it's a very cool way of saying, just bear with me, or, uh, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, so I like to think brevity is important when you write. At the same time, not at the expense of the quality of emotion you're wanting to articulate.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
if I'm writing and thoughts stop flowing, you just know, and then you stop writing. You
Okay.
can rearrange the text.
Hmm.
You could go back to them, but
Hmm.
the moment your thought stops on that particular topic,
Hmm.
it's finished. And the other thing, Simran, I do is I read it somewhere. I just write and I don't keep reading and writing.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I have to write about this conversation, I will just write. I will not pause to reflect or review
Hmm.
what I
Hmm.
have written.
Hmm.
And when I'm done, I'm done.
Right.
And that's when I put the pen aside, so to speak, colloquially. But then that's when I can make changes later on. But when I write, I do not pause to review what I have already written.
Right.
And then when it's done, it's done.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. On the, I think the word that we were discussing, that you pick up words, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be like a fancy or a cool word. Like the other day, I was just sitting and I thought, could is such an interesting word. Could can be a request and a challenge at the same time. At the same time, along with this, additionally, Google describes it as a possibility. So, just a singular word in the context that it is used. Could is absolutely two different things. It is a challenge and a request and a possibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the treasure trove, the words.
Hmm.
I mean, that is the fascinating part of words.
Right.
Absolutely. You slice and dice them, and
Hmm.
that's where you feel you've done something
Yeah.
worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. The other day, I think I had written a piece on the oldest bookstores in Delhi. And somewhere there, I had added this thing, this phrase called a stone's throw away. And a friend of mine read the piece and she came back to me and she was telling me it's like I can see it in front of my eyes. Like you could have said it's right next to it, but a stone's throw away is something that that it captures and it gives the text eyes, or
It's
it gives life to the text.
precisely,
Yeah.
precisely, and that's where expressions matter. That's where your interactions matter.
Right.
And I've been thankfully told that a couple of friends, quite a few, have written to me saying it's as if I'm sitting across the table from you.
Yeah, I think at your launch event, Imtiaz had said the same thing, that when he was reading the book, he could feel that he was right there with you. When he was, of course, miles away. And that is something that I feel too. Like when you're describing about your father helping other people, I can literally imagine in my mind that you have a house where there are so many people, it's always chatter going on, and then someone is coming in, and then teas after teas after teas are just, the rounds of teas are just going on.
Yeah, yeah, and we are wiser and more mindful in hindsight. So
Yeah.
uh, Imtiaz was very kind. He's always been kind, and he hasn't escaped from me all these years. So credit to him. He's a very patient man. But he did say after reading a couple of chapters
Hmm.
that you take the reader there. And
Hmm.
I mean, he didn't know what he was doing, because then he emboldened me to unleash more. And then there's the Hapless Voyager for everyone.
Yeah. Another thing that I think I just wanted to just know, you have mentioned again and again that you would want the reader to pick up the book and start anywhere they would like. Is that something you would have wanted when you were reading throughout your life, or you have read other pieces, or maybe there is something you have read back in the day, a text like that you can just open up the book anywhere and just start reading?
Simran, it wasn't done by design, and Mriga, who put in tremendous effort in terms of structurally telling me, ये यहाँ पे ठीक लगेगा, वो वहाँ पे ठीक लगेगा. She obviously didn't dabble with the content. She was under instructions.
Yeah, you.
And we collaborated strongly, and it wasn't by design, Simran. It just turned out that way. And credit to Mriga as well, because there were a couple of chapters where she said, why don't we combine the two? For instance.
I think there were 2 Bombay chapters also, about 2 years apart, 98 and 2000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Spot on. So it wasn't designed that way, Simran. And then when you have a sounding board, someone has qualified as Mriga, then you're able to actually view it with a certain structure in mind, which is what she does very, very well. And I was just clear that, and I would take cues and then go away and write it. But by design, I never set out to achieve that.
Okay. This reminds me of this ritual I used to do. I was living in Mumbai for a very long time. I had done my graduation from there, and there is this place called Fort in Mumbai, and there is a library called Kitab Khana. It's one of the oldest libraries there. It's a beautiful place. It has a cafe inside and a very big library. Everything. It's beautiful. So it of course started with another friend of mine who took me there for the first time. And the ritual is that there's a first floor. So you go to the first floor, and that is where the Rumi section is. And you pick up any Rumi book, and you hold the hand of the person who you have brought here for the first time, and you open up the book, and wherever, like whatever page comes in and whatever text is written there, that is the message that you were meant to hear.
Is that right? This is staggering. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I've taken all of my loved ones there individually, and I have done that ritual over and over again.
Incredible.
And, I mean, I could just, that is what one thing that it reminded me of when you at the launch event said that, you can just open up the book anywhere. And so that it just took me back to 2016, 2017, when I was a college kid. I was just hopping on there.
This is a fantastic ritual, though, Simran, and I will make it a point to visit the Kitab Khana.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. We are, wow. And Rumi.
Rumi, yes. One second. So, right now, especially after COVID, we live in something that people, or like my generation, would like to call digital isolation, right? We are in, and especially I'm a writer, so I would like to be alone most of the time with an ink pen and, a candle by my side so I can get all the ideas flowing to me. But that also sort of distances us from the world. Even if I visit a cafe, or like there is this concept of a third place that always used to be there, right? Back in the day. So even if I go to a third place, I have a book. So my face is hiding always behind a book. Very recently, I've started going to book clubs, and even there, people are just silently reading because no one wants to be disturbed, right? So this is something that you call the world of digital isolation right now, right? And absolutely, like in contrast to it, you have lived the exact opposite life of digital isolation. So what would you want to say to like our generation about traveling more, going out more, or anything that you would want to talk about?
The most beautiful and abiding moments are when you are talking to someone, like we're speaking right now. So to me, I'm a private reader.
Hmm.
I'm also a private writer, and I've had the great fortune of being all over Australia and going and writing in libraries which offer you a safe haven.
Hmm.
That haven is, you left to your own devices. You can have your headphones on. I typically listen to jazz. I didn't realize I'd picked up plenty of jazz by the time I finished writing because it's non-spoken.
Okay.
Then words in jazz, except for
Hmm. Hmm.
the language of music. I would think if you have to read, and each to their own, read in private, but when you're going out, go out for the interaction because the multitudes involved in the interaction,
Hmm.
uh, they are priceless. Especially if you're a reader, they will influence your writing.
Hmm. Hmm. I think I think I need to practice myself all of that more.
No, look, what works for me may not work for you, and I will be very amenable to learning from yourself in terms of what works for you. Uh, and I've just been fortunate. I keep looking for escapes and refuges. So I would take the pretext of writing and go somewhere.
Hmm.
And later on in life, especially when I could afford traveling, so I would just go somewhere and say, 10 days I'm out, I'm writing. Because I had created that provision, so to speak, Simran.
Hmm.
But what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. To each its own. When it comes to any sort of creative, any sort of creation for that matter, anything at all, people can have different styles. Absolutely. Um, I had a question. I absolutely forgot what that was. Yeah, one thing I'll come to that question later on, but one thing that I experienced at the launch event, when I was there, was that you indulged in a lot of self-deprecating humor.
It's not false modesty, Simran. It's not false modesty. Um, and I think Imtiaz made a very good point. I'm always influenced by his work because I like it. And there's a lot of depth in his work. He made a great point that we were brought up in a manner that we would be very respectful towards anyone, and we would come in last in our order of priorities. It's just a family thing, maybe. It's just the ethos of the family that we came from. So you were discouraged to take yourself very seriously, which I think is a great thing. It gives you a true measure, and nothing gets to your head, even if you had an accidental success, so to speak. And if you live in constant bemusement, a state of constant bemusement, these are words which are just coming to mind, Simran, thanks to what you're saying, then you can't get stuck up, really. You have to look at it, and you have to. I just feel that I'm someone who is very conscious of the follies and foibles that I embody, so to speak. And they complement who you are. So there was a question, if you recall, about vulnerability.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you may have asked.
Yes,
I-
yes.
You may have asked. And the point is, we are all vulnerable. So why behave otherwise? Why not acknowledge? I mean, you could be terrific at your craft, like you are, for instance. But I see a clear need to have humility. Not because it's a virtue one should have, but because that's the only way to be. You are vulnerable. What's yours today will not be yours tomorrow, maybe. It's a topsy-turvy place, this universe. So why get stuck up? You are an iota, you're an umpteenth part of it, as we not even a speck. So what's the point in getting stuck up? and not being self-deprecative. That's what I feel, and that's the only way to be.
But do you think imposter syndrome then find its way to you somehow?
It could be. It's a great question. So I think there's an expression that I use when I'm mentoring a lot of people, especially, having spent 25 years in Australia. I realized that the way we communicate is very different. So
In India?
in India, as compared to subcontinent, I would say, as compared to the West. So my realization has been that any amount of false modesty is detrimental. It's almost suicidal.
Okay.
And we run the risk.
That to me.
So if I'm good at something, I should come up and say, hey, I think I've done a good job. If I have certain strengths, and what does being self-deprecative mean? It means that you're very conscious and self-aware as well, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Which
yes.
would not mean, the distinction, Simran, is that being self-deprecative doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge your own strengths. Because all of us, there's an underlying reality. All of us have a kick-ass strength that many of us do not have. So it's also critical to acknowledge that. We all have our superpowers.
Yes. Yes.
By no means am I saying that becomes a universal tone, self-deprecation.
Because I read it somewhere that if you are self-aware about only the bad parts in you, then you're not self-aware.
It's suicidal. It's suicidal because
Yes.
that false modesty or imposed humility is not authentic either. And all of us get the best out of ourselves only when we are authentic.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to understand, but
Absolutely. And practice then after, even after understanding.
so one has to, I mean, when you are fending for yourself and your family, you have to be expedient at times. And flattery can get you anywhere, as they say. It does, by the way, especially in the corporate world, in certain settings. But there are lots of authentic people in the corporate world. And then the only way an individual should be is being oneself. That's your superpower. Authenticity is a superpower.
And you are saying that it took you a lot of time to learn that or understand it. So how was that journey like? How did that come into being?
It's still ongoing, Simran. It's still ongoing. There are instances where you think you're making a lot of allowance for the other person or a situation, but you're blinkered, frankly, from your past, from your interactions. So you're trying to adapt, but what you're doing is, so you should adapt because you have to survive. It's a core tenet of survival. Being flexible and adaptability is critical. But the only way you can make a mark, if you want to make a mark, is being your own authentic self. So coming from the background that I shared with you, like what Imtiaz said about looking out for others before you look out for yourself, gradually you realize that the best part of me is my authentic self. And I didn't realize that because while traveling, I was not always secure.
Yeah,
You pick up your strengths. You pick up your strengths, and then you realize and you play to your strengths, which I do now. But I also sardonically say that I'm a fast learner, so it took me only 50 odd years to get to where I am. But with all these incidents, people, situations, and places have left me with one realization: that be yourself, but also be self-aware and also be aware of of where you play. So you could be both at the same time. But it's not easy, Simran. What you're asking is spot on. It's a dilemma, it's a conundrum,
Hmm.
And it happens every now and again. It's only now that you feel that you will not die of hunger, that you don't assert yourself, but just be yourself.
Because it's I think the biggest philosophical question, the biggest philosophical existential question: who am I?
Who am I? And I think this is one thing unique about, this is one thing very divine about all of us. We have one superpower or two, or our share of strengths which no one else has to that degree. It's very hard to quantify, but play to your strengths, be authentic. So when you're playing to your strengths, you're not pretending.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I am a project manager in a firm and I do that well, I shouldn't pretend and say I can do sales, because that is fraud, right? And it has failure written all over.
But
so
actually,
if I'm playing to my strengths, I can be authentic. I can be myself.
Yes, that is true. But the fact that you use the word fraud here, I think it works absolutely in like a 180 for me, where I feel like if someone else, you for that matter, if you are appreciating me, then I am a fraud.
No, I meant fraught. F-R-A-U-G.
Okay, fraud. Okay.
Fraught with. Then it's fraught with possibilities of getting found out, for instance. So be authentic, be aware, and also what will save you a lot of trouble is playing to your strengths. Don't be all things to all people from a career point of view, but also in your own personal sphere, in a certain social microcosm. So this is a realization which is still evolving, because as I said to you, I'm a fast learner. But play to your strengths and you'll remain out of trouble. You can be authentic, Simran.
Okay, so when you say that you have to play to your strengths, what is it that makes you believe in your strengths, or look at them for that matter?
You empirically pick up not validation not through validation, but introspection. And you can't get rid of yourself, right? At some point you have to just look back and say, yes, I did wing it, but it was stressful.
Jai Mata Di, let's rock.
Let's rock, exactly. And then you say, boss, you were not great at it, or your wife will tell you you're not great at it, so why do it? Or your child will tell you, or your friend, or your mom, will tell you you're not great at it. So then you gradually, and this is what I didn't do enough of, and that's why I am where I am. But it's critical to just speak to yourself, saying what works, what doesn't work. I wish I had done more of this.
So what do you think stopped you from doing it, now that you look at it?
It's about getting by. It's about laying a foundation for yourself, for your family. It's expedient is a word I use very often. And you find yourself in all sorts of foreign, alien situations where, and you are unsure because you're not really well traveled. You are figuring out as you go. So someone like me is defensive, or used to be. Because I had no certainty or input. I not had, lately in my life I've got mentors, but I didn't have anyone mentoring me through situations. I mean, you've got to live your own life and fight your own battles, but I just think after getting by, you tell your children what not to do. You tell your children where. So, for instance, I've told my children that they need to super specialize in whatever they do. Then they're good. They should not be generic in their outlook. So, double down on your strength or an area of passion and just go for it. So this is something that no one else told me, for instance. And I don't feel sorry for myself, because it was all accidental, gratuitous learning as I went along. And sometimes you learn better when you learn things the hard way. Learn them firsthand yourself.
Yeah.
So I won't change anything, Simran, but yeah. So, but this is where I'm at now, that I'm able to look back and say, thank God I didn't venture here, for instance. And I'm very acutely conscious of what I cannot do well, for instance. I know for a fact, and I'm reminded constantly by my family, by my friends. So, yeah.
So, I mean, this also makes me think that I thankfully come from a place where my parents were always like, you have full freedom to do what you want to do. You can pursue what you want to pursue. There is no engineering that you have to go for, or there is no particular age where you have to get married. And sometimes, very little times, of course, I'm very thankful about the freedom that I get even as a woman. But very little times, the fact that I am free to roam gives me so many directions that I am lost. So,
Great. And look, this goes back to I see this a lot, and I was there all the time. I just took the route that worked. I mean, let me take a step back. There are several avenues I had to explore because I was forced to explore them. And I say to a lot of young people, drawing from my own follies, foibles, the missteps that I took, Simran, be intentional, which means talk to yourself more and very critically analyze yourself. No one else can do it better. And talk to yourself and say, hey, this is not for you, buddy. Note to self, that was, below par. So, how about we do this? Note to self, you are an idiot. I mean, I speak to myself in these words sometimes. I mean, why bother? Haven't you understood that this will not work? That conversation with the self, Simran, it's something that I advise people to take up.
Right.
You know the best.
Yes. There have been times where I go for my nightly walk and I'm just chatting to myself, and I know I look like a crazy person, but it is important for my mental sanity.
That's when life makes sense, when you are on a solitary walk.
Yeah. Yes. I think nothing at all, like I work out regularly 6 days a week, but nothing can take away the peace, the clarity that comes after a walk in the moonlight.
Yeah, and I would take a sunny day as well,
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
Yeah.
I am completely with you. They use the expression clearing of your head. So I learned this in Australia. The lunch hour wouldn't strictly be all about eating. People would either go for a run or a walk during the time. They would carry the paraphernalia to work. It's very common in Western countries.
Wow.
So, and after a long meeting, I've seen a couple of my leaders say, hey, I'll just go for a walk. You need that qualified solitude, so to speak, that you just talked about. And that's when you talk to yourself.
That is also meditation. Like, I don't think meditation always has to be you sitting down cross-legged and just chanting.
And chanting, I shouldn't say much, otherwise I'll be in trouble. But if I'm chanting, I can't think.
You can only do one thing at a time. One thing that I think brings me back to the question that I asked about self-deprecating humor. One thing that I would want to talk about here is how do you, like, I understand that you said that you have to be genuine to yourself and you have to understand your strengths, but how do you still escape the imposter syndrome of it all? Like, how do you, like, as I was mentioning, sometimes I do something good and someone tells me that I have done something good, I just can't believe them. I think, oh, another person that I'm just frauding another person.
So this is time for honest conversation. So for instance, if you recall, when I first arrived at the Melbourne airport, and I met this gentleman who said, this is shit beer. I thought you were being derogatory. Right?
Hmm.
And I was psyched out. A lot of people had said Australia is a racist country and be very bro and all of that. And here I am. Um, and these are genuine conundrums because you don't know what you don't know. It's your day one. Someone's telling you something, and how do you know whether the person is, means well or just is placating you? Uh, that's where you have to know. That self-assessment is very critical, and it could be retrospective. But I would take a compliment on its face value and then reflect on it. But also, if there is vacuous praise, then you sort of use your instincts. I think we suppress our gut feeling. We shouldn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are not paying enough attention to the gut feeling.
We don't do that, and it's only now that people are going to the rooftop talking about it. But if you realize, most mishaps could have been avoided if we listened to ourselves.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
very first gut feel that you have has proved itself to be a sacrosanct truth cast in stone in that situation.
Absolutely. You're so right. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to talk about that I understood after reading the book is that you're going along as you're making connections, or vice versa. You're making connections as you're going along, which doesn't really happen these days. Even if it does, we're so. It's just so difficult to keep a connection alive. Like on days, it feels like a chore that I have to call my mother and tell her, yes, I'm safe and sound at home. Please go to bed. So, like, how do you manage that? How do you manage keeping in touch with so many people and making sure that, like, this reminds me that the last time we were talking, or the first time we were talking, you told me that you always have the time. How do you always have the time?
So, Simran, it's also the generational thing. We are a couple of generations apart, maybe. But I don't know how to say it because it will come across as if I'm bragging. But my genuine interest in people, and somewhere along the line, there's empathy for people. I thrive on compassion in that sense. I'm not talking myself up, but I feed off it. I get a sense of purpose and power when I'm able to check in on someone random also, saying what happened. And that's just me. That's just me. And I was walking just yesterday along with my wife, and we met this young chap. There was a baby pigeon which fell. The guard, one of the staff, was putting him in a safe place, him or her, the pigeon. I got talking with him. And it's the genuine intrigue about what that person is in that place or time. Imtiaz does it very, very well in his films. We are defined by the situation we find ourselves. And that's when we also discover ourselves, at least certain aspects of ourselves. So I got talking to him, and he said he was working 2 jobs, 8 to 8 and then 9 to 2 or something, because he was supporting his brother who was doing a degree in medicine.
Wow.
So that stayed with me, and I said, that puts also things in perspective. You see a lot of people stressing, usurping, appropriating, but this guy is Zen. He was smiling. And he said, अभी तो उम्र भी छोटा है ना, तो अभी कर लेता है. 80,000 मैंने पे कर दिया अपना भाई.
Wow.
So I'm saying not only such acts of tremendous accomplishment, but also that intrigue and that connection with so many people. I also think, Simran, if I leave my false modesty, I don't want to be using the term But if I leave unnecessary modesty out of this statement, I feel genuinely for people. I don't rest easy if there is something that is happening to someone and I can at least check in and I don't. I've regretted that big time. So it's me. That's just me.
I think empathy is one thing that is going away. As I mentioned, that people are so focused on building their own empire, whatever serves them, they are only focused on that. As I think I also came across a reel recently where statistically India as a country is doing very poorly on the empathy scale. Just in general.
यार फाइट भी बहुत है सिमरन आई थिंक
Right. We are now the most populated country.
फाइट बहुत है तो क्या होता है कि along the way I've been exasperated as you've read in the Hapless Voyager, thrown out of a hotel, don't know where to go, for instance.
Right.
And you're trying to be empathetic to the staff at the hotel because you know it's not within her purview to.
Right, but it's so difficult to separate yourself from the anxiety, I would say, or the restlessness.
It does. Anxiety does inflict you. At the same time, जो होड़ है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है अभी. I just feel that, and again, it's to do with explosion of social media. Maybe similar. I mean, I see young people like you very focused, and you know what you do and you do it well and you're focused on it, but there are a lot of people who are well past their early youth and are clamoring after something, and that can easily happen if you don't get joy out of small things like talking to this Assamese boy downstairs. You know, he stayed with me. Now I look him up. I'll go downstairs, I'll say hello to him. And it also, there's a realization that I've had is how much can you take? You know, once you're dead, you're pretty screwed after that, right? You're not gonna, no one's going to give a damn. And we talk about it, me and my wife, you know, various stages of life that we are in. You've got your kids, you've got your parents, you've got your brothers and sisters. Being the elder, you do your, you know, you execute on your responsibilities. But after that, I think somewhere we've just totally lost track of our own selves.
Yeah.
But I'm also very competitive in that sense, Simran. So the purpose of securing a comfortable life, not only for myself, but also for my family, that is critical even today. And that again goes back to the strengths theory, that I keep doing what I do and I keep the intensity on because I'm good at what I do. I'm passionate about what I do and I make a buck doing that. So I think a lot of aspects are interwoven. And with the advent of social media, there's a hell of a lot of pressure on young people. So that explains their why they're lost. But also, consumerism is like a cage.
Really?
Bit by bit, it shuts itself on you. That happens to people everywhere. You know, why don't people just simply understand that, fine, you know, you're here to create a legacy. So that's where my being competitive comes into being, Simran. I wanted to write this book and have it out there. So it's an aspiration, which is that of being there, leaving an imprint. I won't deny that. There's no humility in saying so, but that's the case. But a lot of people I see, you know, for instance, if I can make a difference to a few people, I would like them to read the book, The Hapless Voyager, because they would not make the mistakes that I, for instance, made. That is one big intent behind writing it, that it doesn't preach, but it tells you how vulnerable I've been and what worked, what did not work.
Right.
But a lot of people are not coming to terms with themselves. So what is the next BMW, for instance? You know, that defines them. They are looking at gratification, but there is no fulfillment.
Exactly. Yes, I think Very recently, only I did a piece where I was writing about Leo Tolstoy and how he had everything, and that he achieved through his writing only. Writing is something that uh, made him come in terms with himself, made him understand himself, and gave him the fame, gave him the money, gave him all the luxuries of life. And still, he had the question, why am I not happy?
Yeah.
And so he just left everything, he abandoned it all.
And wrote, right? Simran, is that the story? Because I didn't know.
Then he went on like a sadhu journey of himself. He cut all ties, and then he just
So
went.
that part, Simran, resonates immensely with me. And that's why the Hapless Voyager, obviously, there's Leo Tolstoy, and then there's, there's whoever I am. But the point is that resonates. I mean, there's a short video on social media which said a family was bidding very hard for a big family home. It was an auction to buy a home. They went against all odds, borrowed more, got that dream home. Fast forward to 50 years, there was one family member in that home. Fast forward to another 20, it had passed on to someone else.
Right.
And all of the residents were deceased. So that gives you a perspective, because it is, I've used this, it's ephemeral, it's transient. I mean, don't freaking take yourself seriously. You're gone anyway. You're gone. So if that finite reality, the reality of being finite, is embraced, then you do things that can have meaning, I think. But I don't know how, being such a rational species, we lose sight of the fact that we're going to be gone one day. It's laughable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even in the way we consume, not just digitally, just physically as well, the way we consume, we think that we are here and we are going to live forever, and that is absolutely not true.
Yes, to use existentialism, as you said, so that baffles me. And initially you're running hard, trying to safeguard things, spending for yourself, for your family, and there comes a time when you have to be able to see clearly that, look, boss, jana to hai hi. So it's what you do with the remainder.
Might as well.
Correct.
Yeah, I think usually, like the kind of place that I live out of Delhi NCR right now, and all of us, like, I live in a good society, so all of us are just caged or locked in our rooms or our flats, for that matter, right? And it's when I go for the walk, when I go to buy sabzi outside, and I talk to the didi जो सब्जी बेचती हैं, and she would say, आज क्या चाहिए दीदी? And that, the fact that she recognizes me, the fact that, like, the place that I live, people around here recognize me, that is something I think that makes me like come in terms with the idea that yes, okay, existence is good. Whatever time existence is good, because people around me know me and they see me.
It's a very profound point that you make, and it almost sounds cliched when again there's a lot of social media around us, when someone will say people like to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. If you like life, like I do, like you do, and we like to be seen, we like to be heard, and that's why I've gone on an obsession trip and wrote the book. But that is precisely what will give me a lot of joy. That I speak to someone I meet, and we talk about life and we talk about that person.
Yeah. I think I also read it somewhere that when you're talking to someone, let them speak, because whatever you're going to say, you already know.
You already know. So a lot of people come to me and say, I don't know, they're people who are so have got such fallacies about me as a person. I don't blame them. Um, they say, okay, why don't you mentor my son or my daughter?
Hmm. Hmm.
I said, so I normally say that, look, these kids are not to be lectured to, they are
Hmm.
to be heard. And it's something I've practiced. So I spend time with young people and I learn, Simran, like I've said to you, a hell of a lot from young people. It's
Hmm.
only when you try and understand the person
Hmm.
that you can offer your own insights, your 2 cents, as they say,
Hmm.
leveraging the experience you've had, good, bad, ugly,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So a lot of young people have become great friends of mine and they confide in me more than their parents because I just value them for who they are and what I can see in them what I never had.
Hmm.
True
Hmm.
story. And you can still be selfish and intentional about it because you're imbibing a bit of that person as well.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So the fact is, by grandstanding, you are losing out. As you said, you already know what you know. So, if you have to mentor someone, what can
Hmm.
you do? You are not supernatural, so you can only offer your life's learnings. And
Yeah.
for that, what is it that will apply
Hmm.
is something you'll know only after getting to know the individual
Right.
in his
Right.
or her entirety,
Hmm.
rather than just sitting on a high horse and saying you should do this, you should do that. I
Yeah.
mean, remember we wanted to escape that sort of behavior ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that also makes me think that as individuals, now, people who are lost, I speak for myself, people who think that they are lost, we try and look for that from someone else actively, that someone would hear what I have to offer. And then, accordingly, after active listening, would tell me or give me a direction, or maybe they say something so profound on a random Tuesday morning that will finally show me where I need to go in life, and then I'll figure things out for
You
myself.
hit the nail on the head, Simran, because unless uh, there's something I read, I think my father used to read a lot and he used to follow J. Krishnamurti, who I
Hmm,
admire.
hmm, hmm.
Unless you tell me, how will I know, is an expression. And the other thing is, if you want to help someone, get to know the person, make
Hmm.
time. You
Hmm.
know, make time and you will realize that it's a beautiful interaction because you've not got your set formulaic expressions for everyone because they don't work anyway. So get to know the person, you'll learn a thing or two,
Yeah.
and then share your experience
Hmm. Hmm.
and say that, look, so I was, while my kids were growing up, I used to tell them where I failed miserably and what I shouldn't have done, and we had a
Hmm.
big laugh. And then I
Hmm.
realized that they started to take me slightly seriously.
No, that happens. That does happen. Yeah.
So I have this take that you've learned everything you have accidentally.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if you have to apply it on someone or share it with someone, then get to know the person so that you share the relevant bits.
Right. Right. Yeah, because I think I love talking to people. I love listening to people, and I love asking so many questions that at some point in time, most of them feel like it's an interrogation because I'm just going on asking, how was your day? What did you do? What do you do? Where do you come from? All of these questions. And so I like talking to people just in general. And that, I think, as I mentioned earlier, also, that makes me find myself.
It's a superpower, Simran. And you're talking of your generation. It's a superpower that you have. And you
Hmm.
must be very conscious about it. And you
Hmm.
must know and tell yourself that it's a superpower.
Right, right. Yeah.
That will help you shape and make some very informed decisions.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
critical to acknowledge your strengths as much as you acknowledge your, you know, the
Yeah.
so-called inadequacies.
Yeah. And when I talk to people, if I'm telling something to them about myself, I do realize that not a lot of people have the emotional capacity to actively listen. or they are not at the same level of empathy. I wouldn't say that they never were, but it's just the fact that right now, with everything happening around the world, I think it takes up a lot of emotional energy to even be updated on everything that is happening. It's not
It's that saying, yeah, you're consuming content
yeah,
and you trying to make something out of what's going on.
yeah,
So, the interaction with any individual, for instance, if you notice whether it's uh, going for a meeting in KL, or whether it's taking a flight, or whether it's a train journey, what makes it worthwhile and memorable is the interactions we've had.
right, absolutely, yeah,
So we could be relatively stoic and do what we want to do, but I mean, there's the opportunity, so why not check in? You know, why not? And it takes a long time to come out of your reticence if you are reticent intrinsically, but it happens because you mean well and you start to know how to do this, how to break the ice over a bit, and that's where lie a lot of lessons that I've learned. Simran.
I was reading something, I think, about how people shouldn't, or it's like there was a set of people who were saying that they do not like small talk because it's very generic or surface level, and then someone said that small talk is sometimes what saves the other person.
Absolutely, because we are human beings, we are not machines,
Yeah,
and we just would like to be acknowledged sometimes. How's your coffee?
yeah, yeah,
And the West is, they do it habitually. So if you smile at someone, they will smile back at you.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was a bit of a cultural thing. And as hapless the Voyager I am, I tried to smile at someone. They looked at me very suspiciously, saying, "What? Why?"
Yeah.
So it's also cultural,
Uh-huh.
but we can always pick up stuff. I think one of life's great blessings is when you travel, you can pick up uh, a lot of traits, mannerisms, which can be totally diverse,
Right. Yeah.
and that those nuances bring in a lot of meaning. They
Yeah.
bring a lot of richness to life.
Right.
Whether it's you go to your village and speak to someone, and in a country the first time, uh, you have to be ready to absorb the changes, the nuances.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That makes it rich. That makes the voyage rich, so to speak.
Yeah, I think whenever I consume any sort of media, like I'm watching a movie or a series that is based out of um, maybe people like it is from UK or and based out of 90s, early 90s or early 2000s, I see that people go to the so-called third place where they hang out or where they eat regularly, like an eatery or something. And whenever they are ordering, the person who's serving them would always ask them, "What is your order, love? What would you like to order, love?"
Yeah.
Or and that is something that like I never see that in India. That would be also not appropriate in India, but still that is not the kind of that is so very generic, but
It
that
is.
doesn't happen.
It is, and the the fascinating part of being, in various places, situations is you don't misconstrue things because you know that there is a difference in outlook. Not necessarily in outlook, but in the way people behave and what is deemed acceptable behavior versus what is deemed inappropriate behavior.
Right.
Right. So you just have this feeling of bemusement. Okay, what's next? Okay, this is how they do things
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So happenstance is precisely that, Simran.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I think one thing that I spoke about at the launch also was vulnerability. That is one thing I myself have a problem with dealing with, number one, and two, I have also seen men around me, like male friends who who suffer a lot of problem in just being vulnerable to their own selves. Of course, there is this entire thing about patriarchy and how men shouldn't cry or are asked not to cry, or it is seen as a sign of weakness. But that is one thing that you spoke about at the launch also, that I'm going to come back to it. This was my question at the launch as well, that you said that there was this one particular day where you couldn't stop crying. So what was that about? What is it that it made, how did it make you feel, and how did you eventually stop?
So, look, I had the benefit of anonymity because, me and my wife were living in a town in Mornington Peninsula with our dog. We were just going from one place to another every month. So, so then you can be more of yourself in places. But I think, and I said that to yourself, Simran, at the launch as well, we are, we are vulnerable, and that's all we are. There is no other way to describe who we are and how we are and how pitiful a state we can find ourselves in. But everyone's vulnerable. The rich and famous are vulnerable. The poor are vulnerable. People like us are vulnerable because life is what happens when you're making plans and all that. We've known, you read about my life in the Hapless Voyager. First of all, I was not adept at making plans, and thank God I didn't, because nothing would have gone as
to fruition.
Yeah, and also it's who we are, because that is what differentiates us, and that is what makes life very joyous. That is, the vulnerability is not only self-pity. Vulnerability is also recognizing where you are exposed and where you don't have control, where you are truly hapless. And 9 out of 10 we are hapless, and 9 out of 10 times when we find ourselves in a situation which is not controlled or staged, we are vulnerable. You don't know how the auto rickshaw guy will talk to you.
Yeah.
And that is still, where you need to go, and you know the various modes of transport available. You take a bus, for instance. I took a bus because a friend asked me to. He said it takes the same time in Bangalore. I thought has to be said about the traffic of Bangalore, but I took a bus, and the conductor looked at me and he said, I'm learning Kannada. And I missed the stop twice. That was because I didn't know the language. And I wasn't intently listening also. And then I realized that I should have asked, I should have been proactive, and then I would have gotten to my destination, not overshot the distance or the number of stops. But you're vulnerable anyway. Even when you're left to your own devices, you're vulnerable. All of us are. So why pretend that we are not? And also we may not be able to afford vulnerability many a times. Say in a professional setting, when someone to get you, that's not a good time to wear your vulnerability on your sleeve. I would argue. So, but being aware of your vulnerability is critical, because all of us are vulnerable.
Yeah. I do really also believe that the capacity to process grief gives you the capacity to process happiness.
Wow, that's very profound again, Simran. And yeah, so because you are not guarded.
Yeah.
You don't choose grief.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not guarded in the event of something that goes terribly wrong, or you lose someone. So the same logic or principle or just a way of life should apply when you're out there, in not so adverse circumstance.
Absolutely, yeah.
So vulnerability can be flipped as well. It could also be that since if you are vulnerable and you acknowledge it to yourself, then you may be in for a much bigger experience, a much more joyful experience. You are not excluding, you're not excluding anything. You're ready for and accepting of whatever.
Something about living in the moment.
Yes, that too.
Yeah. So you have to let everything come to you, and eventually that is how I think you become a vessel where things, thoughts, feelings, experiences, everything is just passing by.
Yes, and it could be, I mean, you're just absorbing.
Right. Yeah.
You're just absorbing and you're getting by and reflecting occasionally.
Yeah. Right. If we are talking about all of the experiences, all of the adventures that have happened to you, happened with you during your lifetime, is there something that you did not get a chance to do, or an opportunity that you did not get a chance to pick or be at, or something that you would, now that you see all of your journey, something that you wanted to do and you weren't able to?
I think I've made the most, Simran, and I can't really be completely.
Wow, that is a life well lived.
It is. As I said, and I wanted to get my experiences out there. The Hapless Voyager was something I had schemed, plotted, constructed, and I wanted to do it. There's a lot that can be said about power of repetition, and especially if you don't have lofty goals. So, to me, I won't change anything. I won't. There are regrets. There are instances where you get singled out, but there's nothing that I would change. Number one. Number two, I made the most of the choices that were on offer. I think. Okay, and especially because that's why the word hapless. It is, if you are a man of limited talents, skills, etc., what's going to be on offer is going to be limited. And that's how I started my career, for instance. And then I made the most out of it. I discovered myself as I went along. I discovered strengths which I had and fessed up that I do have those strengths. And I made the most out of whatever was dished out. So I would say I have zero regrets. Even if I were to pump up today, as I said that day, I'm chill. I'm done. I'm ephemeral. I'm transient. I'm hapless. I'm vulnerable. I'm all. Considering all of them, I think I've made the most. So I will continue to be the Hapless Voyager. There's a certain fulfillment in acknowledging that there's a lot that is not in control.
And I think the whole question about, or the thought process of having control, is just an illusion.
Yes. It's like making a decision that is rational. Right?
Say it in inverted codes, like finger codes. What does that mean?
So essentially, we think we will compare everything, do the right thing, and we'll make the best possible decision. It seldom happens. And that's why we are exposed to buying, say, alcohol, for instance, which is a scam. Right? If you come to think of it, it's not a rational decision. But look at how big the industry is.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. So there is a question I have. We have been talking so much about how you were overseas and the experiences you've gotten out of, all the places you've been to, traveled to, and you have traveled so much. If you were to um, put all of your voyages in one word, or all of your journeys in one word, what would it be? Is there a word?
Happenstance, serendipitous.
Okay.
I'll give you these through. Fortuitous, because I never thought I'll travel so much, Simran. And as you would have read in the book, it was not, for people of my caliber, it was not. Travel was not as frequent as Imtiaz also said during the launch. He said, when we were growing up, we never thought we would go overseas. And now he shoots his films overseas. And he shoots at 10 locations because he can. And he brings, spots, people, circumstance to life. And what we never thought we would. So it's serendipitous, stroke of good fortune, all of that. Simran. I never thought I would travel. You've read the book, so you know that it's been accidental.
Just one thing leading up to another.
Correct. One phone call, one card that I sent to someone prompted the individual to call me and say, "Hey, we have a job for you overseas."
Wow.
And then it's important also to be foolhardy. For instance, in the year 2000, no one was taking relocation to a new country seriously because it was a gloriously uncertain time in the tech industry. But I jumped at the opportunity because I wasn't merely considering the job. I was looking at the possibility of being in a new country. So I feel overly fortunate, Simran, that I had the opportunity to travel.
And if you were to travel, I know right now you're in Bangalore and you would want to be here for some little time, considering also the bets that have been placed. If you were to go somewhere next, or whenever you would want to go somewhere next, what would it be? What place?
There's so many places, Simran, frankly. And I am only now starting to read up about places. But there are, like anyone says, parts of Europe. I made one fleeting trip to Europe, and it was with the family. I was keen to show the kids what the universities in Europe look like. So we packed up and we went, and luckily the son took the bait and he's over there.
Wow.
So it worked. But there are a lot of small towns and cities that I would like to spend more time in. So what drives me to be in an active career is the fact that I can save up so that I can travel, not merely to the iconic and much written about towns, cities, destinations, but generally, I would like to explore the real places, the villages, the cities, the smaller, lesser known places, and mingle with people, because there's a certain standardization in the large megapolises, so to speak.
Right.
And you want to venture out of that and get to know cultures which have been self-preserved.
Right.
And that you will find only in small towns and villages. So just also aimlessly travel without setting a destination. That is critical. It could be any part of the world, and it is definitely India as well. Out of India, they say that someone said to me, an American friend of mine, he said, I read somewhere that you could go around the world in a year, but it would take you a lifetime to travel through India.
Wow.
And I thought about it long and hard, and I realized there's so much, so much packed into one country.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. On the same lines, what do you think is next for Hapless Voyager?
I think it's very simple, Simran. So first up, leverage my 30 odd years in tech business, double down, make some money so that I can travel. So next 5 or 6 years will be, and it's just me and my wife and our dog right now. So buckle up, double down, create bigger impact in my career. Writing is not on my mind yet, but that can change.
Are the drafts there?
I have to create one, Simran. It's funny you say that because I've just opened a draft.
Wow.
It's a kitab, and I didn't know, and this happened yesterday. I think I was coming from somewhere and I said, "Nahi kitab." Something happened. It was some share that came to mind, and then I said, "Nahi kitab." Now I have to dump some thoughts there, see where they lead me to.
Yeah.
But I am very clear that I don't want to do calibrated writing, Simran. Something has to move me so that I can write because that's who I am.
Right.
But hopefully more voyages, more travel, more reaching out to people, more imparting what is valuable or what is useful, I should say, what is useful within me to young people. I think that inspires me a lot. That gives me a sense of power, and purpose is a very cliched word, but I feel I'm in control when I'm able to lend what I've got by way of experiences to people. They could be young, they could be old, doesn't matter. So there's a lot in the people and the interaction side of life that we are discovering by being back in India. Western societies are very stoic and very structured.
Right.
And having said that, I've got lots of local friends in Australia, which is still home. But the lack of formality and the variety of interactions just blows us away. This is what me and my wife are enjoying. Right now. So do more of it, and wherever possible, I do want to address the issue of alcoholism, Simran, because it's very deep-rooted, it's deep-seated, it's institutionalized. So I also want to, and I'm not just being altruistic, I'm learning about these things. So I want to address them, I want to share a piece of me. The second one is neurodivergence, of how people with so-called disabilities, they are not disabilities, are 1 in 5. And if you don't include them, you lose out on the potential of humanity as a whole in its entirety. So these two definitely. And impart whatever is useful out of you, which is very little, to more people. That gives me a lot of joy, considering how ephemeral and transient everything is. So having the opportunity